In a quiet corner of the world, beneath the dust of forgotten centuries, an ancient book was found. Its pages, yellowed and fragile, carried words written in a language no one could read. Letters curled like vines, words twisted into shapes unseen in any tongue. And at its heart lay the question that has haunted scholars for over 500 years. Who wrote this book, and what does it want to tell us? The year was 1912. A Polish rare book dealer named Wilfred Voynich uncovered a strange manuscript in a Jesuit college near Rome. Among piles of Latin texts and medieval codices lay a volume bound in vellum, its spine cracked, its cover plain. But within, drawings of plants that never existed, celestial charts that mapped unknown skies, and a script so alien it seemed written by something not entirely human. Voynich knew instantly that he had found something extraordinary. He could not read a single word, but he could feel the weight of its mystery, the pulse of its secrets. He took the manuscript back to London, then to America, determined to solve its riddle. But the more he studied it, the deeper the mystery became. The pages, 240 of them, were filled with inked symbols that obeyed no known alphabet. Each page divided into careful sections: plants, stars, bodies, circles, codes. Its illustrations danced between the scientific and the surreal, as if drawn by someone who had seen the world through different eyes. Who was this author? A scholar? A heretic? A madman? Or something else entirely? Voynich began to search for clues. He believed it to be the work of Roger Bacon, the 13th century English philosopher who dreamed of machines that could fly and glass lenses that could reveal the unseen. Perhaps, Voynich thought, this was Bacon's lost compendium, a manual of secret wisdom written in cipher to protect it from a church. But even this theory began to crumble when scholars dated the parchment. Using radiocarbon testing, the vellum was traced to the early 15th century, 150 years before Bacon's time. The ink, too, matched the age. This was no forgery. It was real, ancient, and still it refused to speak. For more than a century since its rediscovery, the Voynich Manuscript has stood as one of humanity's most enduring enigmas. It whispers through the corridors of academia, mocks the brightest codebreakers, and defies the logic of linguistics. Every letter seems to follow rules. Every sentence obeys structure. And yet, no one can read it. It is as though the book was written for a mind that no longer exists. And so begins our descent into the language of shadows. The symbols flow like living things, elegant, rhythmic, precise. Whoever wrote them understood language. There is grammar here, syntax, repetition, and yet the words themselves are from nowhere. When experts first examined the script, they noticed something unsettling. The patterns were too perfect to be random, too structured to be mere art. This was a language, but one utterly unknown. The script does not match any writing system on Earth. Its characters resemble nothing in Latin, Greek, Arabic, or Hebrew. Some curve like musical notes. Others spiral like the tendrils of plants. And through it all runs a strange consistency, as though the writer had mastered a tongue spoken only within their mind. In the 1940s, during World War II, the U.S. Army brought in its greatest cryptographers, men who cracked Nazi ciphers, decoded secret communications, and mapped entire networks of espionage. They turned their eyes toward the Voynich Manuscript. They failed. Even the mathematician William Friedman, one of the fathers of modern cryptanalysis, spent decades attempting to solve it. He died still believing that the manuscript might contain a genuine, unknown language, one that had simply vanished from history. Decades passed. New minds tried. All were defeated. And yet the structure remains too ordered to dismiss. Some began to suspect that the manuscript might be artificial, a hoax, perhaps created to deceive a wealthy patron. But those who have looked closely disagree. A hoax, after all, needs to look convincing only at a glance. The Voynich text, however, bears the hallmarks of deep internal logic repetitions, grammar-like rules, and frequency distributions identical to real languages. Whatever it is, it was written with purpose. But purpose for what? To conceal? To reveal? To test the boundaries of the human mind? The Voynich script sits between sense and madness, a perfect imitation of meaning, without meaning at all. And within it lie drawings that may hold the key. Between the lines of text, the illustrations bloom like dreams. Strange plants twist in unnatural shapes, roots intertwining like veins, petals curling like tongues. No botanist has ever matched them to real species. Each seems part familiar, part impossible, like fragments of memory stitched together from different worlds. There are stars and suns, moons and constellations drawn in intricate patterns, circular diagrams, overlapping like clockwork, celestial orbits, perhaps, or maps of some forgotten cosmos. And then the most haunting pages of all, dozens of nude women drawn in soft ink, their bodies submerged in green liquid. They hold tubes that weave like arteries, connecting them to stars, plants, and strange mechanical shapes. It is a universe where biology, alchemy, and astronomy merge into one. Some pages show them stepping into pools shaped like organs, others being carried by streams that vanish into nothingness. Were these images metaphors for transformation? Was the author trying to depict creation itself, the fusion of life, matter, and spirit? Or were these simply the visions of a mind untethered from reality? Every page feels deliberate, every brushstroke purposeful, and yet, together, they form a tapestry that resists interpretation, as though each image is a symbol of a truth too vast or too dangerous to express in words. The manuscript is more than just a book. It feels like a map, not of places but of understanding, a chart of how the universe connects, stars to souls, plants to people, heaven to flesh. Whoever wrote it, it seems, was not merely recording knowledge. They were encoding belief. Through the centuries, hundreds of minds have fallen into the manuscript's labyrinth. Each emerges changed, some enlightened, others haunted. Some claim it to be the work of an alchemist, a manual for the transmutation of matter and spirit. The strange plants might be symbolic ingredients. The women, vessels of creation, representing the merging of elements to create life eternal. Others whisper it was the work of a secret society, an encrypted text meant to preserve forbidden wisdom. The manuscript's zodiac charts, astrological diagrams, and coded recipes could have been part of a hidden spiritual system, a bridge between science and magic. Then there are those who see in it the fingerprints of the insane, perhaps a scholar driven beyond reason, inventing a private language to speak with himself. A journal of obsession, written in solitude. Some even reach beyond Earth. They speak of ancient visitors, of alien messengers who left behind knowledge in symbols humans could never truly decipher. A record of something not meant for us, but found by mistake. Every theory contradicts the last. Every answer opens more doors. And still, the book waits, silent, eternal, unbroken. Absolutely. Continuing seamlessly in the same dark, mystical documentary tone. Here is the full continuation and completion of your cinematic script. In the age of machines and algorithms, when computers can read patterns invisible to the human eye, hope was rekindled. If men could not read the manuscript, perhaps machines could. In 2018, linguists and AI researchers fed the Voynich text into neural networks designed to recognize lost languages. They compared letter frequencies, spacing, and repetition to thousands of known alphabets. And for the first time in centuries, the manuscript seemed to whisper. The system proposed a strange idea, that the text could be a phonetic cipher, possibly based on a form of Hebrew or Proto-Romance. When certain letters were substituted, fragments of familiar words began to appear. Hints of light, herbs, bathing, body. For a moment, it seemed the manuscript might finally yield its secrets. But then it didn't. The words dissolved into incoherence. The sentences refused to form. The machine, like every mind before it, stared into the abyss of meaning and found only noise. Modern cryptographers use statistical linguistics, deep learning, and pattern recognition. They mapped every symbol, every curvature, every repetition. They found rules that made sense, but no key to unlock them. It was as if the manuscript were intentionally designed to resist understanding. A language that obeys grammar, but not logic. A code that feels alive, adapting itself to each attempt to decode it. Some scholars now believe it might be an example of glossolalia, speaking in tongues, a spontaneous, subconscious language created by the human mind in trance. If so, the Voynich Manuscript may be the most elaborate act of such expression ever recorded, a book written in pure thought, untethered by known words. Others remain convinced it must conceal something real, a hidden meaning, encrypted by design. Medicinal formulas, philosophical secrets, lost rituals, perhaps even a grimoire, a magical book meant to guard sacred power from unworthy eyes. The irony is cruel. In an age where we can decode DNA, split atoms, and map the universe, we cannot read a single word of a book written 500 years ago. And so, the mystery deepens, not in the parchment but in us. For what does it mean that we, with all our brilliance, cannot understand one of our own creations? Perhaps the answer lies not in the letters, but in what they hide. There are those who say the Voynich Manuscript should never be decoded, that its language was meant as a veil, a seal against knowledge too dangerous to reveal. For centuries, the Church hunted books that challenged doctrine. Alchemy, astrology, and natural magic were condemned as heresy. What if the author of the Voynich Manuscript sought to preserve forbidden wisdom by disguising it? A book written in code to survive the flames of ignorance. Its drawings of plants and stars may be more than illustration. They may be keys, symbols guiding the initiated toward transformation, enlightenment, or eternal life. Some pages resemble alchemical diagrams, circles of elements, the sun and moon joined, the fusion of water and fire. Others seem to describe the human body in mystical ways, not anatomy, but alchemy of the flesh, the merging of spirit and matter. The women immersed in green fluid could represent the prima materia, the raw substance of creation, the womb of transformation. If true, then the manuscript is a manual for the metamorphosis of the soul, a roadmap to rebirth. Yet others take a darker view. They whisper that the book was written not by man, but by a mind touched by something beyond human comprehension. That the language itself was received, not invented, dictated by voices, visions, or entities that dwell between worlds. To some, the Voynich Manuscript is sacred. To others, cursed. Every century, its mystery resurrects a new wave of obsession. Scholars devote lifetimes to it. Some lose themselves entirely. There are letters from researchers who claimed the book spoke to them in dreams, who began to see its symbols in the patterns of clouds, leaves, and mirrors. They all describe the same feeling, a sense that the book is alive, that it watches, that it waits, and that it reveals itself only to those who surrender reason. Perhaps it was never meant to be read in words, but felt, absorbed, understood by the deeper self. Perhaps its power lies in the silence between the letters. The line between knowledge and madness is thin, and maybe, just maybe, the author walked that line and left behind this testament to the place where reason ends. Today, the Voynich Manuscript rests in a climate-controlled chamber deep within the Beinecke Rare Book Library at Yale University. It sits quietly behind glass, guarded, studied, admired. Page after page has been digitized, analyzed, and published online. Anyone can see it now, and yet, no one can understand it. Its strange alphabet, once hidden, has become one of the most recognizable mysteries of the modern age. Artists copy it, coders study it, dreamers print it onto their walls. The book has transcended meaning and become a symbol of the human hunger for truth, for mystery, for the unreachable. It reminds us that even in an age of reason, there remain islands of wonder, places where knowledge fails and imagination begins. Maybe the author knew that. Maybe they wanted to create something eternal, a mirror in which every generation sees its own reflection. For some, the book is a cipher, For others, a poem. For others still, a message from the divine. But perhaps the real message is simpler, that not everything is meant to be known. Every mystery we solve brings us closer to the limits of understanding. The Voynich Manuscript stands at that threshold, the boundary between knowing and wonder. Is the voice of silence, written in ink, a book that whispers across centuries. You can read the stars, you can measure time, you can name every atom, but you will never know everything. In that sense, the manuscript has already spoken. It has told us what we needed to hear, that there are still secrets in this world too vast for the human tongue. And so it endures, page after page, line after line, unbroken, unread, unyielding, the book that no one can read, and perhaps the book that no one was ever meant to.